Your reality is collapsing. Right now. Not metaphor. Actual quantum collapse. Into wrong timeline. Into limited reality. Into life you don't want, and you're causing it. Not intentionally, not consciously, but constantly. Through 5 specific mistakes, 5 actions you do daily, 5 patterns you repeat unconsciously. That quantum physics now proves collapse probability waves into unwanted outcomes. That force universe to manifest limitation, that lock you in current reality, that prevent timeline shifting, that keep you stuck forever. Unless you stop, unless you recognize, unless you correct the 5 mistakes. Starting now. February 2026. Stanford Quantum Biology Lab. Research published that shocked scientific community. Dr. Michael Chen's team discovered that specific human behaviors create what they call reality collapse patterns, measurable quantum effects, observable wave function collapse, into specific, predictable, limited outcomes. They identified 5 behaviors that consistently collapse reality toward limitation, toward lack, toward unwanted. 5 mistakes, 5 collapse triggers, 5 patterns that everyone does, that most don't recognize. That quantum mechanics now proves create your limited reality. And 94 years earlier, in 1932, a master named Abdullah taught the exact same 5 mistakes. Called them consciousness errors, reality collapse triggers, the 5 violations. He taught, there are 5 things you must never do. 5 violations that collapse infinite possibility into limited actuality. 5 mistakes that force universe to manifest lack instead of abundance. Stop these 5. Immediately. Completely. Forever. And reality shifts. Timeline changes. Life transforms. Not through adding new practice. Through stopping old violation. Through ending mistake. Through correcting error. That's been collapsing your reality into limitation, into current life, into stuck state, for years, for decades, maybe entire life, until now, until you learn the 5, until you stop the mistakes, until you correct the collapse. Through Abdullah's teaching, through Stanford's validation, through what you're learning now, the 5 mistakes collapsing your reality, the 5 violations you must stop, the 5 corrections that shift everything. Starting now. Here's what quantum reality collapse actually means. What Stanford discovered. What changes everything about how we understand why life is the way it is. Quantum mechanics proves reality exists in superposition. Multiple possibilities. Multiple outcomes. Multiple timelines. All existing simultaneously. Until observation. Until consciousness, until you. Your observation, your consciousness, your awareness collapses superposition, selects one possibility, manifests one outcome, locks one timeline, from infinite potential to singular actual. This is proven physics. This is quantum mechanics. This is how reality works. But here's what Stanford discovered that nobody understood until 2026. Your observation isn't just thought, isn't just focus, isn't just attention. Your observation is also behavior, also action, also pattern. What you do is observation. What you say is observation. What you repeat is observation. And certain behaviors, certain actions, certain patterns create specific collapse trajectories. Force quantum field to collapse toward specific outcomes, toward limitation, toward lack, toward unwanted. These are the 5 mistakes, the 5 violation behaviors, the 5 collapse patterns. That Stanford measured, that Abdullah taught, that you're doing right now, today, this moment, collapsing your reality into current limited state, into timeline you don't want, into life that doesn't match desire, through mistakes, through violations, through patterns. That must stop. Now. through correction, through awareness, through the 5 that you're learning now. Mistake 1. Speaking current reality as permanent. This is the most common mistake, the most unconscious violation, the most reality-collapsing pattern. You speak current reality as if it's permanent, as if it's fixed, as if it's unchangeable. I'm broke. I'm sick. I'm alone. I'm stuck. Present tense. Definitive. Permanent. Stanford's research shows this creates what they call state law collapse. When you speak current reality as permanent state, quantum field interprets this as observation, as selection, as choice, and collapses all probability waves toward maintaining that state, toward keeping you broke, toward keeping you sick, toward keeping you alone, toward keeping you stuck, permanently, until you stop, until you speak differently, until you describe current reality as temporary, as changing, as already shifting. Not, I'm broke. I'm currently experiencing financial limitation that is changing. Not, I'm sick. My body is temporarily processing something and returning to health. Not, I'm alone. I'm between relationships and attracting my perfect partner. Not, I'm stuck. I'm in transition toward my desired reality. Temporary, changing, shifting. This prevents state lock, keeps quantum field fluid, maintains possibility for different outcome, different timeline, different reality. Abdullah taught in 1932, never speak current circumstance as permanent. Always speak as temporary condition changing toward desired. Current is not truth. Current is just current. Temporary, already shifting, to desired, through your word, through your description, through how you speak reality. Speak it permanent, becomes permanent. Speak it temporary, becomes temporary. Changed, shifted, manifested, different. Stop mistake 1, today, now. Every time you catch yourself speaking current as permanent, correct immediately. That's temporary and changing now. Reality unfreezes. Collapse redirects. Timeline shifts from this one word correction. This one pattern change. This one mistake stopped. Starting now. Mistake 2. Asking how before assuming what. Second mistake. Second collapse trigger. You ask how something will manifest before assuming it already did. How will I get money? How will I heal? How will I meet them? How will I succeed? How questions? Before what assumption? Before end result. Before completed reality. Stanford research shows how inquiry creates what they call path dependency collapse. When you ask how, quantum field must provide path, must show bridge, must reveal logical sequence. But many desire realities have no logical path, no visible bridge, no believable sequence. So quantum field cannot comply, cannot collapse toward outcome. Collapse aborts. Reality stays same, forever stuck. Because you keep asking how, keep demanding path, keep requiring logic that doesn't exist, that cannot exist. That prevents manifestation. Abdullah taught, never ask how, always assume what. Assume outcome complete. Assume reality manifested. Assume end result achieved. Then how appears, not before, after. Assume first. How follows, always, in impossible ways, in unexpected paths, in quantum leaps. That asking how prevents, that demanding logic blocks, that requiring path stops. Stop asking how. Start assuming what you want, what already is, what manifested. In consciousness first, in quantum field second, in physical reality third. Through assumption, not through how, through what, through end, through complete. Now, every time you catch yourself asking how, stop. Redirect. I don't know how. I assume it's already done. How will appear? This single correction. This one pattern shift. This mistake stopped. opens quantum possibilities, allows impossible paths, enables reality shift. That's how asking prevented for years. Until now. Until correction. Until assumption. Before how. Always. Mistake 3. Monitoring for evidence before locking in belief. Third mistake. Deadliest mistake. Most reality collapsing violation. You monitor for evidence before locking in belief. You look for proof before committing to assumption. You check circumstances before deciding it's real. Waiting for evidence. Before believing, before assuming, before knowing. Stanford research shows this creates observation paradox collapse. You're observing current reality to decide if new reality is manifesting. But observation of current reality collapses quantum field toward current reality. Not new reality. Current. You're literally collapsing reality toward what you're trying to change. By monitoring it, by checking it, by looking for evidence of change. Before change happens. This is the paradox. This is the trap. This is the mistake that keeps reality locked, forever same. Because you keep observing same, waiting for different. But observation creates reality, not confirms reality, creates. So observing same creates more same, never different, until you stop monitoring, stop checking, stop looking for evidence, and start assuming. Start knowing, start believing, without evidence, before evidence, despite lack of evidence. Abdullah taught, evidence comes after assumption, not before, never before, always after. You assume first, evidence appears second. Reversed order fails. Creates paradox. Collapses wrong reality. Assume without evidence. Believe without proof. Know without confirmation. This is faith. This is assumption. This is what works. What evidence waiting prevents. What monitoring blocks. What checking stops. Stop looking. Start knowing. Evidence appears. After. Never before. After knowing. After assuming. After believing. Without proof. That's when proof appears. That's when evidence manifests. That's when reality shifts. To match assumption. That existed first. Before evidence. Creating evidence. Through assumption. Not waiting for it. Stop monitoring. Today. Now. Every time you catch yourself checking for evidence, stop. Close eyes. Say internally, evidence comes after assumption. I assume complete. Evidence will appear. Then stop monitoring. Let quantum field work. Let assumption manifest. Let evidence appear. Imperfect timing. After belief. Never before. This correction. This pattern shift. This mistake stopped. Changes everything. Instantly. Mistake 4. Explaining current limitation to others. Fourth mistake. Fourth violation. You explain your current limitation to others. You tell your story of lack. You share your problem details. You describe your stuck situation. To friends, to family, to anyone who asks. I'm struggling because I can't afford it, because I'm sick, because I'm stuck, because explanation, justification, story of limitation, of lack, of current reality. Stanford research shows this creates narrative lock collapse. Every time you explain limitation, you're not just describing it, you're reinforcing it, strengthening it, locking it, through narrative, through story, through repeated explanation. You're telling quantum field, this is my reality. This is my identity. This is my truth. And quantum field responds. Understood. Maintaining this reality. Continuing this timeline. Locking this truth. Through your words. Through your story. Through your explanation of limitation. That becomes more limited. More locked. More permanent. Every time you explain it. Every time you justify it. Every time you share the story. Abdullah taught, never explain limitation. Never justify lack. Never tell story of stuck, even when asked, especially when asked. Respond differently. I'm in transition. I'm shifting realities. I'm manifesting new timeline. Brief, vague, future-oriented. This prevents narrative lock, keeps quantum fluid, maintains possibility for different, for new, for desired. That explaining limitation prevents, that justifying lack blocks, that sharing stuck story locks. Stop explaining. Start transitioning. In your words, in your story, in your narrative. To others, to yourself, to quantum field that responds, to story told, to narrative shared, to explanation repeated. Stop limitation story. Start transition narrative. Now, every time someone asks about your situation, your struggle, your problem, respond briefly. I'm in transition to something better. Then change subject. No details, no explanation, no limitation story. This prevents narrative lock, maintains quantum fluidity, allows timeline shift, from limitation to abundance, to story stopped, to explanation ended, to narrative corrected. Now, mistake 5, attaching feeling to current circumstance instead of desired reality. 5th mistake, final violation. Most unconscious collapse pattern. You attach your emotional state to current circumstance instead of desired reality. You feel based on what is, not what you want. Current reality good? You feel good. Current reality bad? You feel bad. Emotional state determined by circumstance, by current, by actual, not by desired, not by assumption, not by end result. Stanford research shows this creates emotional feedback collapse. When emotion follows circumstance, you create quantum loop. Current reality generates emotion. Emotion reinforces current reality. Current reality generates same emotion. Emotion reinforces same reality. Loop. Locked. Unchanging. Forever same. Because emotion and circumstance lock together, reinforcing each other, collapsing toward each other, never changing. Until you break loop, until you reverse pattern, until you attach emotion to desired reality, not current circumstance. Feel based on what you want, not what is. Feel wealthy before money appears. Feel healthy before body heals. Feel loved before partner arrives. Feel successful before achievement manifests. Emotion first, manifestation second, not reversed. Abdullah taught, feeling is secret, but secret is, feeling comes before, not after. Before manifestation, before evidence, before circumstance changes. You feel desired reality already real, while current circumstance still unwanted. This breaks loop. This reverses collapse. This shifts timeline. From circumstance creates feeling to feeling creates circumstance. From reactive to creative. From collapse to collapsing. Your way. Toward desired. Through feeling. Before evidence. Despite current. Anyway, that's power. That's secret. That's what works. What feeling after evidence prevents. What emotion from circumstance blocks. What reactive feeling locks. Feel desired now. Circumstance follows, always, after feeling. Never before, after. Stop attaching feeling to current. Start attaching feeling to desired. Today, now, every moment. Feel the reality you want, not the reality you have. Emotion creates, not confirms, creates. So feel creation. Feel desired. Feel end. Before it appears. While opposites still visible. Anyway, this breaks collapse loop. This reverses quantum pattern. This shifts timeline. From current to desired. Through feeling. Through emotion. Through secret. That Abdullah taught. That Stanford validated. That works. When applied. When felt. When maintained. Feeling before evidence. Always. Now. These are the 5 mistakes, the 5 violations, the 5 collapse patterns that Stanford measured, that Abdullah taught 94 years before, that you've been doing, that have been collapsing your reality into current limitation, into stuck timeline, into life you don't want. Stop them. All 5. Today. Now. Immediately. Mistake 1. Stop speaking current as permanent. Speak as temporary changing. Mistake 2. Stop asking how. Assume what completed. Mistake 3. Stop monitoring for evidence. Assume before proof. Mistake 4. Stop explaining limitation. State transition only. Mistake 5. Stop feeling from current. Feel from desired. 5 corrections. 5 pattern shifts. 5 mistakes stopped. Reality unfreezes. Quantum redirects. Timeline changes. From collapsed limitation to collapsing abundance. From stuck current to shifting desired. From repeated same to manifesting different. Through corrections. Through awareness. Through stopping. When you didn't know you were doing. That was collapsing everything. Into wrong. Into limited. Into stuck. Until now. Until learned. Until corrected. Through the 5. Through Abdullah. Through Stanford validation. Through you. Stopping mistakes. Correcting patterns. Shifting reality. Starting now. Which mistake are you correcting first?